You wonder why you have bad technique in your training? Well, here's something you probably haven't considered. You see, in sports science, there's this thing that's called physiology and skill paradigm, and that's just a fancy way of saying what you can physically do dictates kind of how you're going to do something. Let me give you an example really quick, an easy one to understand. If you've ever seen a little kid shoot a basketball in a 10-foot hoop, they always just chuck it up there. 2 hands, they just shove it at the hoop. It's like they're just throwing the basketball up there. It's not even a shot at all. Now a coach might say, hey, little kid, you need to shoot like this. Good follow through, like Steph Curry or whatever. Let's shoot with one arm, one hand. That's not really possible. Why? Well, if you think about it, that little kid is chucking it up there because physiologically, the only way they can actually exert enough force to get the ball up to the hoop is with 2 hands, because the hoop is just so high and the ball is just too big and that little kid's just not strong enough to get the ball up there. So that little kid isn't able to express good technique that we would consider at least good technique because they're physiologically weak. It's not their fault. They'll grow and get stronger and eventually be able to shoot the ball with great form. But think about that concept really quick when it comes to your training. Why do you think your squat technique or your bench press technique or your deadlift technique struggles? And we're assuming this technique, by the way, isn't anthropometric limited, so like your body type, structure, and shape, but more muscular wise. Your technique might be struggling for the same reason why that little kid can't shoot the basketball with good form. Now the little kid example is probably a little more extreme, but think about it. Maybe you can't hold a specific position or get into a specific position with the amount of weight you're using because the amount of weight is too high relative to the skill that you're trying to express and the physiological ability of those muscles in those positions. So a solution to this would be to get stronger in certain areas to allow for your technique to be strong enough physically to actually express that technique. Now, this isn't always the case because the inverse is also true. Maybe you've just been shooting with bad form because you learned that bad habit as a little kid, even though you are strong enough to shoot with good form. So you are strong enough to lift with good form, but you've just developed a bad habit because you developed this habit when you weren't strong enough in the first place. So consider that. Don't always think it's one thing or the other. Just consider all possibilities. That's basically the technique physiology paradigm.